All right, good afternoon, welcome back. I really wanted to do a video on the fascinating hockey specimen of Brad Marchand, thus the Bruins jersey. But I've been kind of getting caught up in articles and stuff, and I kind of just wanted to compare Subban and Marchand for their suspensions. They kind of go hand in hand. Subban, an old Canadiens defenseman, and Marchand's been with the Bruins for his entire career. Even back then, they were both known as the rat of the other team and kind of heated the rivalry up a bit. They've even dropped the gloves, and neither of them are really fighting type players. Marchand he's added a physical element to his game the past few years, but that's for leadership purposes, and it's kind of irrelevant. So I just want to point out Marchand's Slew-Foot history. His first incident that the Department of Player Safety acknowledged is in 2011-2012. He got a $2,500 fine. Okay. Next one is in 2015, so just about three to 4 years later. I'm not sure. I don't remember at what point throughout that season it was in. So 2015, he gets a 2-game suspension. Great. Now we're going just about 7 years later. He has one Slew-Foot on a play that wasn't called. Everyone was looking at it with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. You can make an argument both ways that it could have been just the optics of it made it appear it could have been a Slew-Foot, but it didn't necessarily look like one. And then again, you can be like, that's a pretty obvious, it had all the actions of a Slew-Foot. How can you say it's not a Slew-Foot? So I'm not here to argue or anything with that. Like, it is what it is. But, he was handed a 3-game suspension. People are going to be happy that oh my goodness, people are going to be unhappy that it's too much, it's too little. It is what it is. For me, the issue is with the league being consistent. We see inconsistencies pretty often with Department Player Safety, and especially after Shanahan kind of left, it's almost been kind of arbitrary in terms of who gets suspended, who gets fined, what the suspensions actually are, who gets away with what, and so kind of a comparison because Marchand and Subban go hand in hand. They're two of the rats of the league. Both great guys off the ice. When you're in a hockey game, a little bit of rats. So this season alone, Subban has been in the news for 5 different Slew-Foot incidents in 5 different games. That's 2 more than Marchand's entire career that I could find and that we know of. He hasn't been disciplined more than 3 times for Slew-Footing. This is his 3rd time this season. He has not had a 4th Slew-Foot this year. Hockey experts, not me. I did see one game, and it turned out it wasn't a Slew-Foot, so I'll go by the experts. 5 this season, and this season he's only been fined twice. First fine was for $5,000. Second fine was for $15,000 for a total of $20,000. Marchand's losing almost $100,000 in salary by missing those 3 games. And remember, he's on a cheaper contract than Subban too. He makes about 68% of what Subban makes, about 2/3, a little over. So there's that. The frustrating part is Sammy Blais of the New York Rangers, off of Subban's Slew-Foot, tore his right ACL. He's out for the entire season. He's a good player. He's a player the Rangers need if they want to make a run. Do they necessarily need him? No, but you can say that for almost any player on any team. He's not Artemi Panarin, but at the same time, he's an important player to that team in that locker room. So Subban gets away with injuring a player for the rest of the season, and there's no supplemental discipline on that. Marchand gets a 3-game suspension on 1 Slew-Foot, and what? I'm just personally I'm struggling with the inconsistencies here. So that's kind of just my opinion. I like if you gave Subban a 3-game suspension for the same thing, fine. If you gave Marchand a fine and Subban fine. We're not having this discussion then. It's just that it's two of the extremes, right? 3 games is probably a little too much for that one play against the Canucks, but at the same time, 2 fines for $20,000 in total is probably too little for injuring a player for the rest of the season. It's December. We still got 6 months until Stanley Cup, so there's still quite a long ways to go. It's a pretty major injury, so just something interesting I wanted to look at. I know I'm not here to defend either player, or I know it's a little skewed towards like it may appear that I like Marchand more. I don't really care either way. I think Marchand's suspension was a little harsh. I think Subban's wasn't enough. That's just my opinion. I'd obviously love to hear what you guys think. Going back for suspension histories, Marchand wasn't suspended for, I believe it was just about 4 years. And for whatever reason, you just can't find anything about Subban. You just find random articles about diving and we know he's been suspended multiple times in his career. I couldn't find exact dates, so that's why I didn't put that on the board. I forget. There was an instance where a player received a fine instead of a suspension for a boarding. It was either boarding or elbowing, but it was a board play because he wasn't suspended for a year and a half. Yet Marchand's almost 4 years, and one incident he's suspended. So again, just that consistency. I'd like to see more of that from the NHL personally. We'll see what the rest of the season brings. I think obviously you're talking about two of the most players that probably don't earn a whole lot of respect, but you got one guy who's getting away with multiple dangerous plays. He's probably going to be targeted a little more on the ice than, say, Marchand, who served his time, if you will. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see how they respond. I think Marchand comes back, continues on like nothing happened. Maybe he has to drop the gloves in the Vancouver rematch. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'd be surprised, honestly, but I'd respect it. He's answered with a suspension. He'd answer with a fight, and we just move on from the incident. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Again, let me know what you guys think about the mismatches and penalties. If you guys can think of anything else, any other scenarios that are similar. I just really wanted to compare Marchand and Subban because they're just tied as being dirty players with a rivalry, and they date back to the Boston-Montreal rivalry, and I don't know, they kind of just go hand in hand, just like Ovechkin and Crosby. Subban and Marchand go hand in hand until they exit the league. So that was a little fun. I'm going to do a Marchand video at some point because he's a very odd specimen. Subban's career's been a little more straightforward. I don't know if I'll do a video on him. He's not as fascinating of a player at this point in his career. He's been a more consistent player, so we'll see. Channel's still young. We'll see what happens. All right. Again, let me know what you guys think, and thanks for watching. I appreciate it, guys.